Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's the Full 40 with Chris, Rob, and Willie, part of the Nova Insider Network. We are back live, coming to you. Not live, we're recording. We're coming to you. It is 8:45 on December 12th, Monday evening, after a week of 2 Villanova victories, which is something we haven't been able to say yet.
Wow.
So
Think about that. Wow.
It feels good. It should never have happened this late, but here we are. That all being said, a good, comfortable, easy week finally. So we'll break down a little bit from what we saw at the games. We'll hand out awards. We'll talk about the Holy War coming up this Saturday. Kind of a light week, a little bit of a light week this week. The team gets a handful of days of practice and whatnot, but definitely a good week in the past, and we are back to 5-5. Which, let's start there. We talked about what does this team need to accomplish to get back into the NCAA tournament picture, and we said it starts with 2 wins this week, and it starts with a third at the end of this week. But it started with 2 wins in the last week, and Willie, you in particular said, I don't just want to not lose those games. I want to see us go out there and win those games. So I'll go to you first. Mission accomplished?
Yeah, mission accomplished. I felt that the Penn game, I was like, I wanted to see a little bit more. It wasn't bad, but I wanted to see us like really stretch it out. Penn, we're up like 18, then Penn came back. I didn't feel great about it. BC was what I wanted to see. The BC game was the game where we started well. It was the first game, maybe for the entire, not even maybe, for the entire season that we started well. Armstrong with 7 straight points to start. And I thought, that's interesting because Mark's taking control. And that just means once Caleb and everyone else settles in, once Cam comes in, we're going to start rolling. And we did. It wasn't wire to wire because, of course, BC hit a 3 to start the game. But after that, we were rolling. So I feel good. 20-point win. We got to see Colin O'Toole got time. That's what it is. Colin O'Toole. I think it's his name. His name's Colin.
Yeah. It's O'Toole. It's O'Toole.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was like,
pick as Irish of a name as you could think of.
He got time, that tells you all it is. Like that's what I wanted to see, where we like actually won and controlled a game basically from start to finish. I know BC is not great, but you know what? Delaware State's not good. And
that's right.
We put him to Delaware State. Even outside of Cam, you can tell that we're figuring things out. The non-Cam lineups aren't a disaster. We're figuring things out. So I feel good. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, I kept coming back to, in my head, I kept going back to BC is really not that good, and Penn was missing their second leading scorer. Are these wins really that good? And I kept having to remind myself, we barely beat Delaware State, and Delaware State sucks. So we should be happy about this. Like, this is definite improvement, regardless of the fact that these are not like strong opponents. But the headline for me is Cam motherfucking Whitmore. Good God. Like, it pays to have a future top 5 NBA lottery pick on your roster. Turns out he's pretty good at basketball. It's shocking, like the team gets a lot better when he's on the court. Who would have thunk it? I will fully admit though, and this is maybe me just being an idiot, but like the amount that he makes the team better is crazy. He's so good. Like, just I can't take my eyes off him when he's on the court. He operates at such a different level than anyone else. It's really absurd to watch, and I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. Makes my week a lot better.
Yeah, it's It's crazy. I guess we got to start with Cam. Like, I don't know how much
We
we
might
can
as
ignore
well.
Cam for.
I was
That's the
hoping
whole-
maybe
that's the
we go
whole
like 5
podcast.
minutes without it, but
Yeah,
whole
yeah. I thought
podcast.
I thought we'd get a little bit further in before we
Cam
absolutely.
Whitmore podcast is over. All right. we're good.
Yeah.
Next week.
So yeah. I mean, Cam Whitmore was fucking electric this week. Like, we thought the Oklahoma game when he scored like 7 points in 20 minutes was the Cam Whitmore game. No. I don't know if we've seen the Cam Whitmore game yet, and he scored 40 points this week.
Yeah, 40 points.
Total off the bench.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous.
He scored 40 points in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
good. Pretty good.
That's pretty fucking good. It's like it's honestly like this was a thing that was said today. Villanova hasn't had a freshman like this since Tim Thomas.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Like it's crazy. Like, basically, Jay Wright, 4 Final Fours, 2 national championships, never had a player like this. Never had a player like this. Yes, he had top 10 draft picks. Was Mikhail 10 or was he?
Mikhail was 10 or 9. I think he was 9.
Okay, and Randy Foy was like 7 in the 2006 draft or something like that, right? Like, but those guys were like seniors. Those guys were older. This guy is going to be a top 5 draft pick, and he could be 3, 2. I don't know about 1.
No, he can't. He can't be 1. It's Wemby and
it's Wembanaya or whatever his name is.
Yeah, and it's Wemby and Emerson. The highest he could probably be is 3, and that's
yeah. So, but either way, this is not just like, oh, we have a lottery pick freshman on our team. This is a guy who didn't play basketball for 7 weeks and just comes into Division I college basketball and just is like immediately dominant, right? Like, this isn't like, oh, he's going to get drafted because the athleticism is crazy and it's on potential, whatever. No, like, he's also skilled. He's
so good.
He's hitting 3-pointers. He's hitting his free throws, or like just something like simple, like a free throw. Like, you see guys who are going to the draft, like, and like a lot of times they kind of get up and they just fucking like throw balls up there, and it kind of works out to 70-75% free throw percentage. Has he missed a single free throw yet? Has he missed one?
I think he's missed 1.
Yeah,
but no. To your point, I think we look at it like what he's doing is there are, like you said, there are top 10 picks who come in and they're going to be a top 10 pick based off of skill or based off of latent talent or whatever it may be. Like, to give you an example of another person who's about the same size as him, who missed time and has come and started to play, Dariq Whitehead at Duke is also going to be a top 14 pick, lotto pick. Whitehead is averaging over 3 games, 6, 2, and less than assist, and assist shooting 37, 26, and 86 from the line. He'll figure it out. Dariq Whitehead is going to be a great college basketball player or a good college basketball player eventually, and then will be an NBA lotto pick. But what Dariq Whitehead is doing, Cam Whitmore has come and instantly been a. I don't think there have been 25 better college basketball players in the last 2 weeks than Cam Whitmore. Full stop. The number might be lower, but I want to be like, there have not been 25 better in the last 2 weeks since he started. There have not been. The level of skill is insane. His shot is better than I thought it would be. Like,
it's pretty.
I didn't think he'd be a bad shooter by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't think we'd see this. I've said this last week. What has impressed me the most is his defense. His help defense is way better than I thought it would be. He's able to guard everyone. He's really not fouling yet, and I'm sure if we face better teams, there's going to be people who, like, if I'm St. John's, I'm like, how do I attack Cam Whitmore and get him in foul trouble? Because it's so apparent he's the difference that maybe you start attacking him. But as of now, like, no team's been able to do it. No team's gotten him in foul trouble. He's going to face better wings. He's going to face Andre Jackson. He's going to face David Jones. He's going to face Baylor Scheinman and Arthur Kaluma. And he's going to have more of a challenge in the Big East play. Or Colby Jones. Let me get Colby Jones a little shout out. He's great. But he's the level of skill, the talent, I could go on and on. But
he's got good instincts, man. He uses athleticism. It's not just purely like athleticism to help him recover. He's also got good instincts. Like, you talked about his help defense. I mean, his highlight play from the BC game, which is hilarious because it's not the Shaq Fit Man play of the week,
Yeah.
but his like where he intercepted that pass was just like he just read that whole situation playing out and just dove at the ball, got it, and was in a breakaway by himself.
There's
Like-
another play that he did defensively that like he didn't end up on the final end, but in the second half, I forget who it was driving down and tried to post him up. And he went up and like I don't know if Cam blocked the shot or stole the ball, but it was on the just kind of took it from him, passed it up, passed it to Caleb, who then passed it to Caleb, who then passed it to Hausen for the three in the corner. It was Hausen's second of the back-to-back threes that he had. Cam started that play with a weird defensive play. Just like I've watched it like multiple times. Like, did Cam steal it? Did he foul it? I don't foul him. I don't know what he did. All of a sudden, Cam, the guy was backing down Cam in the post. He went up and Cam had the ball in his hands and were going the other way. It's I don't understand defensively how he's this good.
He's like I'll take him and I'll pick a different aspect of him. His sheer physicality is absolutely insane. Like otherworldly. We have to other elements. We haven't had a player like this. Physically, we haven't had a player like this at Villanova that I can think of. He's 6'7". He's built like a fucking truck and just like has speed. He's got crazy hops. I don't know how you stop him. Willie, to your point, like, I don't know, the rest of the Big East is going to be like, oh yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that. I mean, good luck. Like, I'm going to put this guy up against anybody. It doesn't matter. He is going to be an absolute problem for anybody to stop, regardless of where they are on the Big East first team, second team. Like, forget it, man. This guy is the real deal. I've been hyped about
his NBA comps. Like, he's kind of like our little LeBron. Like, but he's not. But he's like
no, he doesn't.
He's not like a LeBron. He's a better three-point
No,
shooter than
he doesn't play
LeBron.
points.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I like spend a lot of time doing like draft stuff.
Yeah, Brian.
No, I'm not saying he's like LeBron. I'm saying for Villanova.
But you absolutely said he was like LeBron. I know.
I said a little LeBron, like for Villanova.
Yes, you just said he's a little like LeBron.
Have you ever seen LeBron?
I'm fucking tired.
You watch basketball.
Oh my god, I fucking love LeBron.
Well, Vladi's like, let's make an NBA comparison. What's the only NBA player I know? LeBron James.
No.
Probably like
that
LeBron
wasn't it at all. That
wasn't
wasn't
better
it.
off going with like Andre Drummond and Sean Kemp. Like
maybe Michael
guys that make
Jordan.
less sense.
He's probably more of a Jordan comp, you know.
Yeah,
Like a Jordan Pippen.
Have you ever seen Michael Jordan and LeBron James mixing together? And then there's Cam Whitmore. No, obviously I'm being facetious, like about the LeBron thing, but I'm genuinely curious about the comps.
Yeah, so I tend to do this a lot for when I do my draft guides, which I'm working on right now. And Cam, I've kind of avoided going full deep into. What I get is there's two players that kind of come to mind without like really diving into it. It's OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors, and then one who's problematic and terrible person, Miles Bridges, is probably the most straightforward in terms of like how they play. I feel like Miles Bridges is a good comp. Obviously, shit person. So don't really love that.
Doesn't play right now.
Yeah, doesn't play right now. But those are the two that come to mind. I'm sure I'll have a more refined one once I really get into it.
It's
Brian's putting terrible things in our chat,
yeah.
which will not be.
I saw Rob's face when he read what I wrote in the chat.
It's terrible.
We're off the walls.
So anyway,
God.
back to Cam Whitmore. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I guess I do have a question. Let's dive into this a little bit. Is this mini resurgence, 3 wins, 2 against bad competition, whatever, but like, is this mini resurgence relative to the season purely Whitmore, or is it Whitmore being so good and his impact on everybody else loosens everybody else up, or has the other pieces around Cam also elevated simultaneously, and we're seeing kind of like a duplicate, like a double effect, so to speak, of Whitmore plus advanced of everyone else advancing?
I would say it's a lot of the second one of Whitmore, like rising tide, lifting all boats, and a bit of the third of other players starting to get better. I think I think the big thing I think about is I feel like Chris Arch has become more playable with he's playing next to Cam. And that's like the rising tide lifting all boats. I feel like that's where you see that happening. Where I feel like people are getting better is I feel like Armstrong's settling in. I feel like Daniels has a little bit less on him now, and he hasn't been hasn't really felt like he needs to do much. He's coming in for huge shots like we saw the Oklahoma game, but I still feel like so I feel like it's helping Daniels a bit more. I think it's definitely more of Cam changes so much for us on the floor in terms of there's now gravity where, okay, now we're like, there's a person who can create his own shot and get to the rim at will. We're already seeing Cam hasn't gotten a lot of assists, but he's a willing passer. And that's going to come where eventually we're going to start putting there's going to be situations where you put Hausen in the corner and, okay, are you going to help off Hausen to go to deal with Whitmore? Because that's 3 points automatically once Cam gets in the lane and passes it to Hausen. So I feel like a big chunk of it is rising tide, helping all the other players play what they do best is by having Cam. I do feel like, however, from a defensive cohesion and from a not pushing it, everyone's been playing a little bit better. I feel like Cam, and this is I feel like I'm really getting back to number 2, just as Cam helping people play feel more comfortable. I think about how I've seen Slater play, which hasn't been he hasn't done anything absurd, but I feel like he has a little pressure off of him where he's now able to fit into that more of the, like we called about it, the glue guy role.
Yeah,
totally. Where he's able to do that a little bit more and be aggressive at times in that.
Yeah.
I feel like weirdly the person is probably negatively impacted, and negative is the wrong word for it, is Dixon, but Dixon's also gotten foul trouble early in both games, so I'm still a little bit I'd be curious to see what Dixon minutes look like over time as well.
It's interesting.
Because a lot of times we're going small with Cam at the 5 when Dixon's on the bench, so they're really not playing together too often.
Yeah. I generally agree with your point. I think most of the improvement is Cam lifting people and allowing them to play more of their natural role, or a role they're more comfortable with. I do think it is important. The 2 guys that do stand out to me, Willie, you mentioned one directly, which is Mark Armstrong. I think he's settling in for sure. And the other guy, I've been on it since minute 1, is our 3-point specialist, Mr. Hausen, is just continuing to be hyper efficient in his scoring. He comes in, he plays a role, he hits shots, he sits back down. The dude needs more minutes because he's an absolute killer out there. And I absolutely love watching him play. So those 2 guys for me, I think, have materially stepped up their game as the season has gone on and gotten more opportunities to show that as well, too, in addition to benefiting from Cam. So yeah, my headline is I think most people benefit from Cam being in, and those 2 guys in particular, I think, are stepping their game up as well. And hopefully that continues to go on as the season. I need more Hausen, though.
One quick thing about Hausen that I've noticed is super interesting. Hausen. I don't know what it is.
I was going to say, what is it?
I say Hausen. I think it's Hausen, but one quick thing that I've noticed is I have not, in all my days watching basketball, seen a person who can come in cold and his first shot is always good. It's his ability that his first 3 that he takes is just butter is absurd. The fact that I feel like there's players who, all right, maybe they don't shoot for 3 minutes, but they're running up and down. they grab a rebound, they get an assist, and then they get shots up. They get into a rhythm. Hausen just wakes up like this. He gets on the court. And I go back to the Iowa State game. He got on the court to hit a 3, and we made a play for him. He was on the bench, took a 3, hits the 3. The same thing happened in Oregon. It's his first shot is always good, and every time it goes in, I expect it to go in, but it always baffles me. I just want to say that he's an amazing shooter. I haven't seen a shooter like this.
I was going to say I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but I remember, now we can show our age, right? I remember the hype when Corey Stokes comes in, right? And Corey Stokes is, he's recruited. He's this great recruit. He's
the Bayonne Bomber.
The Bayonne Bomber. He's a 3-point specialist. Corey Stokes had a nice freshman, a nice freshman year. And you're like, okay, great. And he grew into a really solid, I'm sure if you look at his numbers, he probably shot a little over 40% or something like that, which is great by any means. I do not remember at any point during his freshman year being like, oh, Corey Stokes is just gonna. I mean, it's kind of his personality too. Like Corey Stokes is gonna come in and like just light the world on fire. It's just a more casual like personality on the floor. And there's nobody else. There's been nobody else since then. You know, we talked about Cole Swatter. Cole Swatter was supposed to be that guy, but he wasn't really that guy. And that's it. And then we've got, you know, certainly the Joe Cremo was definitely supposed to be that guy, and Joe Cremo was not that guy.
I got two guys. Rob, who I think sort of fit the bill of what Willie was getting at. One as a freshman, Colin Gillespie. Two, a guy who wasn't a freshman, transfer, but when he came in, he would come in cold and fucking rip threes early in the season. Didn't last. Taylor King.
Taylor King. I knew Taylor King was coming up.
He ripped some other stuff too. But.
Yeah. He'd rip threes, rip bongs, rip lines. He was ripping a lot, but he was ripping threes when he got in. But that was but those were guys who I think kind of had fit that similar bill.
I think Colin I push on a little bit because he was like he also handled the ball more even when he was coming in.
That's
that
fair.
Year, which is kind of weird. Like it's a little bit of a different role. Like how can you like stand in the corner? I'm going to pass you the ball, and it goes up when it hits your fingers.
Just like the freshman guy who doesn't play a ton of minutes, but plays his role well and whatever. Yeah. Look, I think that the freshmen in general have stepped up their game. Obviously, Whitmore has been superb, and we've talked a lot about him already, and we'll find more to talk about in a bit. Armstrong. The game against BC in particular, I said to myself while I was watching Mark Armstrong play point guard, this is a Villanova guard playing point guard right now. Like he was, I felt like that was Mark Armstrong's I am now the point guard game. I'll be interested to see what the rotation continues to look like, but I believe, did his minutes exceed Arch?
Yeah, I believe so.
In the BC game. Now, we were comfortably in the lead for most of the game, so that might have been part of the reason why.
Yeah, you're right.
But Mark Armstrong saw the majority of the minutes at the one, and he played in control. He didn't go outside the offense like we talked about earlier in the season, where he kind of went freelance or whatever. He scored, but he scored in the rhythm of the offense, and he did it at all the different levels. So I thought Armstrong's level stepped up, and Hausen is going to be a guy, he's such a good shooter, where we ask him to play a particular role. We have to change our defense when he's in. We have to play zone. It's just like we can't really do.
We also haven't been doing that as much lately.
No, I know, but when he's in, we do.
I think even that's reduced a little bit. I've seen a little bit more man.
A little bit. But we have to. But he is definitely limited on the defensive end, but he's so good on the offensive end that he makes up for it. That effort on the defensive end plus him getting open, him stretching the defense, him stretching the floor, even if he's not shooting, makes him a value add to the team to be on the court, right? Two guys who haven't been as great of late. You mentioned Dixon. I'm not as worried about Dixon. I'm not really worried. I'm not even going to call it. It's not, to me, it's not worth.
Yeah, it's not worry. It's just like it's a couple games. Like,
yeah.
There were other players stepping up.
Longino's been hurt, so he's been a little bit shakier of late. And then the guy who's kind of in jail from all this, so you're kind of getting a little sense of where Neptune's at in terms of how far he wants to spread this roster, is Angelo Brizzi. Where he was being talked about as, is he going to be the point guard over Armstrong or Arch? And he's not playing.
Just to be clear, he's not in jail like Chris Beard. He's just in proverbial jail. So we got to clarify these things.
Hell of a comparison. But yes, he has found his way to the deep bench, and Rachel's like, Beard is out on bail.
The head of prison.
Anyway. Okay. This is a fucking silly podcast right now. But anyway,
what about Dre Pat?
Trey Patterson's been playing. He's been getting the deepest.
He has been getting some minutes.
He's
Yeah.
been part of the regular rotation. It's been
Watch
the
a
deepest
game, Rachel.
bench minutes.
He's 9. He's
true.
the 9th man as of
But
right
he
now.
is the 9th man. Totally. So
I'm
you're
not
getting
used
to
to us
see.
having such a deep bench.
Yeah, I know.
A lot to keep track of.
So you're starting to see a little bit of what Neptune is going to do when more players come back. I am interested to see what happens when Amore comes back now, because what does he do? Does he drop one off? Does he go to 10, or does he drop another player off the regular rotation? So
Should we
this
talk
is
about
so this is kind of where I'm at with it, is that I also think it's interesting to see what Kyle Neptune's done with kind of the rotation with Whitmore coming back. It'll be interesting to see. Do you guys think that he makes the change to the starting lineup on Saturday? Does Whitmore enter the starting lineup?
Nah, not yet. No, keep coming off the bench. Brings that big energy guy.
And if he does start, who sits?
When he does start, because I think eventually he will start. I think you bench Arch. I think Mark has done enough where you start Mark. You have Cam. If we think about like security blankets of like, all right, you're going to do the right thing, you're going to play well. Cam is our ultimate security blanket right now. I feel like he'll be comfortable with Cam, Caleb, Brandon, and Eric, that enough to throw Mark out there. So that's what I guess it would be. When that happens, logically, Saturday makes sense. I'm gonna go ahead and say it'll probably be. We're playing St. John's at home. Yeah, St. John's.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say we're gonna give. But this is like we have the full week off. So if there's a time to do it, it makes sense to do it now, right before you get into Big East play.
Here's the lineup I want to see. I want to see, everybody else is going to hate this. I want to see Mark, Caleb, Housen, Whitmore, and Dixon. Just good luck defending that lineup. I actually love it because you got Mark, who's like the natural point guard. We know what he brings to the table. Got Caleb playing the 2. Housen's just in there, just jacking threes. Like, good luck. Whitmore marked up against a 4. Like, sign me up all day, baby. And then Dixon at the 5. It's beautiful. That's the lineup I want to see.
Look, it's a good offensive lineup.
I'll probably never see it.
It's a good offensive lineup. I don't think it's going to win you a lot of games on the defensive end.
Hey, how do you win games? You score more points than the other team.
Yes, but
That's what we're
limiting
gonna do.
the
We're
other
gonna check
team's
that box.
points is
No.
part of that.
They don't have to because we'll score on every possession.
According to Ken Palm, our only chance to outscore teams right now.
So honest question though, I do think Whitmore has to be in the starting lineup. That's kind of my take.
Who cares?
It might not be right now, but like he's not going to be a bench player. Like this is just a injury minutes restriction situation.
Sure.
He played 26 minutes. I feel like any minutes restriction thing we talk about now is just like you played 26 minutes. That's the game, you know. So
Yeah.
I just logically it has to be St. Joe's. You're at home. Oh, we're not at home. Whatever. But let him deal with Hagen. Let him figure it out in Hagen. And once again, that'll be his first hostile environment. How hostile, we'll see. I don't know how St. Joe's attendance has been going, but I'm with you. I mean, he's going to start. Let's put it. And because I've seen some people on the internet be like, why isn't he still starting? Whether it happens St. Joe's, whether it happens St. John's, whether it comes by UConn, Cam Whitmore will be starting for us. There's not anything to worry about there.
Yeah,
It's more likely that Armstrong goes to the bench to give a spark off the bench than Cam never comes back on.
Yeah, that's kind of actually what I was getting at is like, do you actually get into a situation now until Moore comes back where you start Arch and you actually have Armstrong fit into the Villanova 6 starter role that we've become very accustomed to seeing, where he becomes that second guard who comes off the bench and provides a big spark. I think that there could be value in that role for him. And I think that like he could still see 25, 30 minutes. He could be the DiVincenzo Booth role, so to speak, that we've become accustomed to over the Corey Fisher. Corey Fisher might be the best analogy, but like kind of like that kind of guy coming off the bench, I kind of like Mark in that role. Like if Neptune feels like, hey, Armstrong's only going to really absorb the flow of this game being in the starting lineup, then I could see an argument to switch it around. But I am interested to see the progression of Arch throughout the season, because really, I fully agree with something you said earlier. This Arch has looked great, like good for the last week of basketball plus. And I thought even in the PK85, obviously no one looked particularly good, but like even PK85, the end of that, I thought he was the only one still playing fully into it and like heading the game. And then the last 3 games, I thought he's played well. He's fit the goal of what he needs to be able to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm struggling with this. I'm sure Kyle Neptune is as well, of like how exactly he's gonna get into this flow. I will tell you that when Moore comes back, my expectation is the starting lineup will be Moore, Caleb, Whitmore, Slater, and Dixon. That's what I think the starting lineup is going to be for this team. And then I think Armstrong will be the 6th man. That's how I see the lineup going from when we get Moore back. Until that, do you start Arch and have Armstrong come off the bench, or do you flip it? Or if Armstrong takes the starting point guard role, does that actually result in a promotion for Angelo Brizzi back into the rotation?
We are speculating so far down. We've got 18
I don't know,
permutations
but
here.
this is a narrative.
It doesn't matter.
It's a narrative on the season.
It's not a narrative. You're talking about Justin Moore. Justin Moore is like, I don't know, a month and a half away from returning. It's ridiculous. I don't know.
You still have no fucking clue when he's going to come back.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
Well,
matter.
speaking of starting lineups, there was a guy who was announcing our starting lineup.
Oh my
on the
God.
game.
Oh my God. So ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that.
We need to talk about Jay Wright announcing. It was terrible. It was terrible.
Jay Wright announcing.
I don't think it was. Like,
No.
do you mean terrible as in for us, or like?
All right. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's a good push.
He did a good job. It was weird.
It was weird. Yeah, that's a better way of saying it. Yeah, and it was probably only weird for like close Villanova listeners. If you're like a casual listener, you're probably like, oh, okay, cool, it's Jay Wright, it's fine, not a big deal. But yeah, there were definitely a few points where you're like, guys, it's kind of strange.
There was just a lot going on there on Wednesday's broadcast. You had Lapis and Jay sitting next to each other commentating the game, and you had to have like Lapis like sucking Jay off like half the time, being like, Coach, when you were going on these runs, like, what'd you think about this guy? Like, and it was kind of crazy. Like Lapis is just like he's crazy the way he comes across. Like he comes across like
really does.
Literal psycho, like just ants in his pants psycho. And Jay is calm, cool, collect. Jay is Jay, right? Like it's Jay, but like when he was commenting, man, we got to talk about his like whole like approach and everything. Like he spent several minutes of that game shitting on freshmen.
Yeah,
right? like
multiple occasions.
Jay Wright hates freshmen.
Yes.
If look, I this way, I had UConn guys, I had other people DMing me on Twitter being like, it's weird. Right? Like it's not just you guys, it's fucking weird that he is so like adamant on this point. But like if the argument was, or the narrative around Jay was that Jay hates freshmen going into this role, he certainly hasn't put the rumors to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like one of those things. It's like, oh, we always, you kind of joked about it, and you drew some conclusions based on what you saw that he wasn't playing them. And now it comes out. It's like, oh yeah, he just clearly has this thing against freshmen. Like, and what we're referring to specifically is he made several digs. Like, I think Cam's on the floor, and probably the first play, Cam is, I don't know,
didn't
boxed out. Yeah, or something like he didn't box out and he lost the rebound. And Jay just jumps in there with the dig, like, that's why you don't play freshmen. You know, something to that effect. Like, oh, that's what you get. Like, needs more time in the gym. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is ridiculous. Just it's commentary that you wouldn't get or you wouldn't expect from other people. Like it's a specific angle. It's coming from such a personal place that it came off as very like very much a dig, which like you're not supposed to do as a color
And
guy.
what
So
I'm
it's very
curious
strange.
about is would he have done that if it wasn't Villanova for his first game? If he was calling,
Mm,
if he was even calling Xavier versus Cincinnati for his first game,
yeah.
and a Xavier freshman made a mistake, would he have done that? Because I'm just curious about that. And he has other game. I mean, he will be on other games, I'm assuming, throughout the year. We'll have a chance to hear that. But it was so interesting. Just like the freshman was the big thing. That was just like it's like, all right, Jay, we get it. You have this thing against freshmen. But then what's also hilarious was he also like anointed Cam Whitmore on it
A legend.
25 minutes into his Villanova career.
Yeah.
He said he called him a star and a Villanova legend. He said he was already a star. He's now a Villanova legend. He had been playing here for 25 minutes. Was he wrong? Not at all.
No,
But-
no, not wrong. But so like we've gotten shit about this on Twitter and whatever, being like, you guys say Jay hates freshmen. There's no evidence of that because look at his track record of playing freshmen, right? And people list JRE, Bay, Moore, Brunson, right? Like Arch, Chef, Hilliard, like, and they go back through the annals of Villanova basketball and Jay's history and say he played freshman. Like how can you say he doesn't play freshman? I'm sorry. For every one of those Brunson and all the other guys, you got
You also named
you got Javon
all
Quinterly,
NBA players.
you got Brian Antoine, you got all these guys, you got a host of names, Nana and Joku, you got tons of names throughout his history that he didn't play. And it's like, yeah, playing Jalen Brunson, you don't get a fucking pat on the back for playing Jalen Brunson, right? Like
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
like that's not like I'm not doling out compliments for the fact that you played a guy who was like 27 mentally when he entered college, right? Like you don't get credit for that. Like you get credit for getting a freshman who is a work in progress, who we understand is work in progress, into a game, right? Like a guy like a Mark Armstrong probably plays under Jay,
Yeah.
but not as much as Kyle Neptune has played him. A guy like a Housen doesn't play under Jay because he does not do what we need him to do on the defensive end. Until he proved that he could play the switching defense, he wouldn't be on the floor, right?
Yeah.
Like these are the comparisons, right? Like Jay playing Cam Whitmore, yeah, of course he fucking played Cam Whitmore because, like, again, you don't get credit for that, right? Like that's an easy decision.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had said it. Everyone that you had named in that entire string played in the NBA. Justin Moore is the only one who has not played an NBA minute yet, and conceivably will play an NBA minutes. Arch and Dio were coming in at a time where we needed freshmen to play, and so he had to take. And like we needed a culture change. He pulled in people that he felt the culture would change with. You have to play through the mistakes. You said something that was really good. There are freshmen that are lottery picks. There are freshmen that are top 15 that are going to play because of their future NBA players, whether or not they came to Villanova. It's the development of the freshmen on the edges that we've seen that's been missing. And it's just been missing. It hasn't happened the way that it should be. If a freshman plays for Villanova or played for Villanova prior to Jay Wright, they were going to be a stud. During Jay Wright's era, they were going to be a stud, which is a good thing. Obviously, you want stud freshmen to play. But then we're not going to go into a whole development talk, but he did not play freshmen that were on the fringes and let them work through their mistakes. Kyle's doing that. What I wanted to call out was, and I'm going to invoke this person's name on the podcast. There will be people who are yelling at us. When Quinterly was here,
Yep.
That's the player where like Jay wanted something so specific out of him, and I can't argue with what Jay did. Jay's a friggin' Hall of Famer, greatest coach, one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. I owe so much of my personal happiness to Jay Wright, so I can't really argue against this. But Jay needed to show the defense to earn his trust. And what other coaches have done, and what Nate Oates did for Quinterly in Alabama, and what Kyle's clearly starting to do a little bit in our own Villanova way is, how about I give you the run to do what you're good at, but I'm still going to ask you to get better on switching and to get better defensively. And that's what it is. And I feel like Jay was able to be like, you're not going to play if you're not you're not going to play if you are making mistakes.
Yeah.
But realistically, the more scalable and efficient way across most of college basketball is, hey, do what you're good at, but I'm going to ask you to keep giving 100% effort on this end, and I'm not going to yank you for a mistake immediately. All this to say, it was weird that Jay Wright kept harping on freshmen,
Yeah.
but yeah.
This is the point, right? Like, is that like you walk in and you say, okay, Jay, once you separate the two types of freshmen out, right? Like all of a sudden it becomes abundantly clear that especially later on in his career, right?
Yeah.
Like this was something that developed over time. This was not as strong of a thing 10 years ago. This is much stronger at the back end of his career, where
I mean,
Kyle has now started to like widen the lens a little bit, and Jay was critiquing that on the podcast,
Yeah.
on the well he was in the booth. He was 100% critiquing the fact that Neptune was rolling as deep as he did
Yeah.
on it, right? Like, and that was what he was doing. So when you say, "Oh, the Jay hates freshmen," when I'm getting DMs from people being like, "I'm a fan of another team," this is a little bit weird, right? Like, that was it. Like, to that point, Jay basically didn't want to do NIL. He didn't want to do whatever. Like, that rumor was going around. Like, this all kind of goes to the same
It really
place.
does.
Right?
Yeah.
Like maybe he did hang up the clipboard at the right time.
yeah, college basketball was changing when and kudos to him, recognized,
Right.
don't want to change with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we've seen plenty of coaches, Jinbei, like
Oh,
not
God.
change with the times and and basically run programs into the ground over time. So I credit Jay for that. We love Jay Wright. No, I feel like if you have to say that over and over again for people to believe it, like it's crazy. Like Jay did more
Sure.
for the school, like maybe more than Father Peter, but like second to Father Peter, or like right in that zone, like than anybody you could name in Villanova history, right? Like he is unbelievable for the university, for the basketball program, and everything that he did for the school. The guy's unbelievable. I feel like I don't need to say that, right? Like,
Yeah.
but this is an example of something where maybe him handing off the reins was right, and like it was weird the way he announced that game. At the same time, I thought he was still pretty good at it.
Nothing was wrong. I think he did pretty well. I thought his excitement for what was his excitement. What was weird or funny was, so when Cam made, which we're going to allude to, and I'm going to call it out, when he made the Shaq Fitman play of the week, because we know what it is.
Sure.
There's no
Wow,
debate.
way to spoil the whole episode.
Big spoiler
The
alert.
whole freaking episode.
I
Willie.
spoiled it all.
Why are
but-
we even here?
But surprise, surprise, we know what the play was. When he made that play, it was hilarious because the commentary was, because Cam had missed practice. Jay was like, well, if you could do plays like that, you don't have to practice, which is just hilarious coming from Jay Wright. But he's also not wrong. So I thought that was interesting. Something to call out, just to go back to the freshman thing for 1 second. It changed when Dante and Omari left. I feel my personal opinion is Jay got more defensive over playing freshmen after Dante and Omari left early. Not that he played them particularly early, but everything changed. I'm sure Jay had a 6-year roster philosophy lined up, and then Dante and Omari left, and he was like, well, fuck, what happened there? What happens to year 2 and 3 of this?
Exactly.
And ever since then, it was ironclad. And I went back, and I know it's a little bit because of what was needed in the lineup wise, but people forget Dylan Planer played in 22 games his freshman year, which was before Dante.
Wild. That's wild.
And he didn't do anything.
Also, his freshman year, we were fucking all on God mode.
Yeah.
Right. So every game was a blowout.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we were 7 deep. So I get Painter playing a little bit, but he played. Jay let him play. So it's very interesting. Yeah, but it was a good. Overall, I give Jay it was probably a B+ performance. The freshman thing was weird.
Yeah,
he got really excited. I'm excited to. I think this is a good next level of his career until Texas offers him a job. But that's another comment for another day.
Yikes.
I don't want to see Jay buried in the third guy role. I think he should be the standalone color guy.
I don't think there is a third guy role too often, right? Because it's super awkward. Like, I mean, you saw it with Lapis, and that wasn't just because Jay is new. Like, it wasn't awkward just because Jay was new. It's awkward because you have to manage three, and there's only, and 80% of the time is taken up by the play-by-play. Like, it's a weird.
I mean,
it's
in the
still a
final
weird dynamic.
four, CBS and Turner do three.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's two. That's literally two.
And it's
games,
also
3
like
games a year.
Grant Hill and Nance and Raftery, like that just know how to do it.
Yeah, but that's literally a special occasion. That's my point. It's like you don't do that for 99% of the games.
Correct. Usually it's play by play in color, and that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Because there's no need. There's no need for two color guys.
I
No.
can't wait to see Jay as the third man when Villanova cuts down the Nets in the Final Four.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah, that would be something.
That one was for Chris.
Should we do awards?
Yeah, award. So the Shaq Fit Man play of the week, which Willie alluded to, was the Cam drive. He kind of missed the layup,
Missed it,
and
yeah.
then this is the part that is crazy to me. He was higher than everybody else in the layup, came down, and was somehow the first back to the ball. I don't understand the explosiveness. It's like a crazy thing to think about. Like, he was the one highest up to get the layup. He came all the way back down to the ground and got all the way back up and was first to the board to get the dunk.
Absolutely.
And what was wild was it wasn't like there was no one around him. He absorbed contact. So energy happened. He absorbed contact, lost energy, and went back up. When that happened, I had a moment where I was staring and I was like, did he get was that illegal? Like, I literally had a moment of like, did something illegal happen? Like, did a foul happen? Because it didn't make sense what just happened. I thought it didn't count because it was that absurd of a play. Like in semi-pro when they do the alley-oop and it's like, is that a foul? Is that a technical foul or whatever it is? That's how I felt about what Cam did there. It didn't make sense to me watching a Villanova game because that's never happened at a Villanova game. I would put my life savings. That's never happened at a Villanova game in the history of Villanova basketball since 1939.
Yeah, it's Cam guy. He's pretty good. Keep an eye on him. He's doing things.
Might have a future in basketball.
You heard it here first. Definitely.
I mean, it's not going to be long before we get like a set play coming out of timeout or whatever for like an alley-oop.
Steal the Andre Jackson play that UConn does.
Yeah.
And just make that for Cam.
Just do that. Yeah, 100%. Okay, same deal. Alpha dog of the week is Cam Whitmore.
Gotta be.
Like it's just obvious, right? Like he comes off the bench and scores 40 over 2 games, right? Like difference maker, and this team is different now, right? Like all of a sudden this team is different. So I mean, he's the alpha dog of the week.
That's cool and all, but I feel like this is the point at which I say Maddie Siegrist had another 30-point game. So Cam scored 40
she does it all the time.
Yeah, but like that's the whole point. Is she does it all the time.
I know.
Like,
I
Cam
can't
can have
find
alpha
her.
dog of the week. Maddie is still my alpha dog of the season so far. Is all
No, I can't find her on ESPN's mock drafts though. What page do I have to go to see her? Because I got Cam on page 1.
I hate you, Brian.
Yeah, people hate me.
Retweet.
People hate me.
He hate me. No, this is look. Maddie Siegrist is. I'll agree with Rachel. The alpha dog of the year so far. Still, yeah. Okay, I'm on.
Sure.
I'm in for that. She's
not the
absolutely
alpha dog of the
fucking
week.
phenomenal. She had a 2000th point recently. She is en route. Like Willie, do you have the Shelley Pennefather
I'm working on that right now.
watch? How far is she from?
She's at 2,116. Shelly Pennefather is, I think, 2,300. Hold on, give me a second. This is great.
So it's probably like 5 games.
Yeah, it's not far.
Yeah.
It's if she continues to score at the pace she's scoring, it's probably 5-6 games.
Yeah,
And Villanova will have a new all-time leading scorer, male or female. Like that's what people forget.
She's just putting up 30 pieces. The Wildcats are ranked 25 in the nation. It's pretty. She's electric. They got the team on the right side of the bubble for sure. And the women's team is doing great. Denise Dillon's Wildcats are killing it. So you gotta give credit when credit's due.
Any pass the fucking ball?
Jay Wright on the broadcast.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, that's
think
what I was
right.
gonna say
Have we
too.
given 2 pass the fucking ball awards to Jay?
Yes, we have 2 consecutive pass the fucking ball awards.
What did you do last week? I forget.
The same thing.
Oh, same thing. God,
We're gonna
was
get a
bad at
reputation being like
broadcasting.
the full 40 hates Jay, right? Like
I mean,
Breaking news. Putting that, I'm gonna make a breaking news template.
What's he gonna do? Not play Cam?
I'm coming back to coach.
Yeah,
I'm sitting the freshman
yeah, exactly. Got to make
just
a
to
point.
show you. Would a guy like a Mark? Let's ask the question: would a guy like a Mark be as developed as he is so far under Jay?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have gotten off the bench.
On this team, I'm going to say yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Zero chance.
I
What are you guys talking
Because
about?
we needed him. We needed him to
because
play
we
minutes.
need because someone had like someone else besides Chris and Caleb had to play guard.
Stop it. Has anyone played 40 minutes a game? No. That means
Arch has got
There-
Chris Arch is at 37.
that means there are more minutes that they could have played. I don't want to hear it.
Rob, I'm going to come to your house and throw a tomato at you since you're obviously part of the Neptune Nation.
Okay, Shelley Penny Fighters at 2,408. Just so we get that right.
All right,
So
so 10
Maddie's-
games maximum.
Yeah, Maddie's like 300 or 2. What's math? She's
What year was the record set?
Shelley last played in 87.
It was a good year.
Brian remembers it fondly.
Okay, so a little bit of a whip around the Big East, real quick. So it's kind of UConn and everybody else. Like Creighton has been on a 4-game tumble. They haven't really won a basketball game since Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but you said they got a guy that's as good as McDermott on.
Oh my God, fucking Brian. No. Okay, I saw Baylor Shireman on Creighton drill a 3 from the logo, and I said, this guy is giving me Ethan Raggy vibes from 2014. And I've been getting criticism on Twitter saying that I basically said that he was the second coming of Doug McDermott, and therefore I had a bad take. And I was like, okay.
Is he like LeBron James?
Chris only knows big names.
Rob, it's kind of like when you said in the early parts of the podcast when you were like, DiVincenzo's decision making is almost as good as Brunson.
Yeah. That was a great take. It was like podcast like 2 or 3.
I didn't listen to that. You said that. I'm the biggest Monte fan
It
in
was
the world.
it was he made like some like ridiculous pass or something like that. And like
His vision, great.
This is when they were both freshmen before he got hurt.
No,
Like,
this is
This is the 2018
this is
team.
18.
Oh, that was
18.
that was dumb to say.
He made like some like great pass, and I said that and definitely got roasted for it.
That's tough.
I
So
showed
around the
my
Big East,
basketball chops.
Do you remember when we had the most broken hands in college basketball? Like that was a literal stat because like 4 or 5 guys had broken hands.
2018.
Yeah.
That's the formula.
And that year, Brandon Slater was a recruit, and he broke his hand while he was a recruit for the
A
program.
contact broken hand.
Yeah.
Weird.
So
Big East.
So anyway, let's go back to the Big East. So UConn was it's UConn and everybody else right now. UConn's up to number 3 in the country from an AP ranking standpoint as of today. They're number 1 in KenPom. They're number 1 in the Massey composite rating. They're number 1 in like every advanced metric. So they are in the really fucking good category. Beyond that, Creighton, we said, has lost 4 games. And is looking a little bit weak right now. Kalkbrenner's been out with illness, so we'll see kind of how that plays out with time. Beyond that, Marquette has kind of been the second best resume right there with Xavier, kind of tied for the second best resume from the Big East. Like I feel like right now, going into Big East play, you're looking at the Big East kind of having 4 teams in, with UConn, Xavier, Marquette, and Creighton all being those 4 teams who have done enough. And Creighton is like a little bit close to slipping back a ways, but that win over Arkansas will continue to pay dividends with time. And they have a win over A&M. Tech, sorry, that's what I meant to say. They went over Tech. So Creighton's going to be fine. Those 4 teams from the Big East are, I don't want to say locks, but those 4 teams from the Big East are looking pretty good. And then after that, it's still a jumble. St. John's has gotten back on the winning track, but again, they haven't played anybody. So we'll see kind of what happens there. And then beyond the Johnnies, Butler continues to kind of look solid, and Villanova is coming up, so to speak. So I said 5.5 was the over under. I feel like a lot more people will put it at 4.5.
Creighton's down 11 to Arizona State right now.
So if Creighton loses that game,
they will sound some alarms.
And Arizona State's pretty good right now. They're 9-1. They've had a couple of decent wins, but I was like, I thought they were playing, and yeah, it's not a great.
It would be the first Hurley to beat Creighton. So there you go. There you have it. That's a reference to the fact that UConn has still not beaten Creighton since being back in the Big East.
It's well over my head. So if any of our listeners didn't get that, you're in good company.
Yeah. So that's kind of the look around the Big East. Willie, anything stand out to you from that perspective?
I mean, when I think about the Big East, I mean, it's UConn. I could wax poetic about UConn and the way they've been built and that team. They're just really, really good. They're fun. I've already put my stake on like DePaul being not terrible, but they'll prove me wrong. St. John's is I forget. Did you put St. John's in that original category?
I put St. John's in the category of the next mix of teams that are playing for a bubble position.
They don't have any like they lost to Iowa State, which is like looking like a worse win. They haven't done anything absurd. They didn't lose to Nebraska. There's that. They beat Temple. There's also that. St. John's is one that I'm interested in long term. I think they could be pretty decent. I like the David Jones transfer. Joel Soriano's been playing very well. So they're one that I'm like, I have my eye on. If I was like putting futures on anything, I would put a future on Villanova. I think we're figuring it out. I would definitely put a future on St. John's as well. Just like they're looking, I think they have the make of a 20-win team that like sneaks in as an 11 seed and is like at least frisky.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we're looking at positive things, but defund the Georgetown Hoyas.
Oh my God!
I actually feel generally bad for everyone there.
It's bad. It's bad.
He may be watching the death of the program. It's interesting.
Yeah. They got annihilated by Syracuse.
They did, and Syracuse is not good.
No, it's a shame. It's a damn shame. They needed to have fired Ewing after last season. Like, I don't know how you go 0-19 for a conference play in the Big East and not fire a coach. Like, the lack of accountability there. Now they're like, okay, if he wins a few games this year, like, what do you do? That's an improvement. Like, it's so bad.
The fluke Big East tournament championship that they had in 2021, it might be the worst thing to happen to that program.
Yeah,
like easily.
The fact that they extended Ewing after that, it's mind-boggling. Just the fluke. Honestly, it's our fault. We killed Georgetown because they beat us, and then they went on and won the tournament. And
yeah, Colin Gillespie doesn't break his MCL, and Patrick Ewing is no longer the coach at Georgetown.
Yeah, that's true.
Butterfly effect.
Okay. So let's talk St. Joe's Holy War week.
Yeah.
So I don't think we get into this Holy War conversation without reflecting on the fact that it's the 10-year anniversary of the Halil Kanasevich double middle finger to the Villanova student section game. And yeah, that game changed college basketball history forever. You talk about butterfly effect, Willie. Like from that moment, we were just counting before we stepped on the podcast. We've lost 63 games total in 10 years. I've won I've made it to 3 Final Fours, 2 national championships, multiple Big East crowns. regular season and tournament. And St. Joe's has made the tournament twice. They made it in 2014 and they made it in 2016, I believe, and has otherwise been fucking atrocious. And we have snapped off 10 straight wins versus St. Joe's. So looking for number 11 in the row, which would be the longest, and it already is the longest, but it would again set another record for the longest stretch of wins in the Holy War rivalry series. So everything has changed since Halil Kanasevich did that. And in that game, just to give you a little oral history here, right? Like he hit the double birds came after he hit a 3-ball, which like his first points of the game, double middle finger the Villanova student section. And from that point, they went up 3. They lost that game. And he was the reason why they lost, right? Like he threw the ball away, right? Like he missed critical free throws down the stretch. Like the Villanova student section came at him. He folded under the pressure of the student section. We go on to win that game tightly. Then, mind you, this was like 2 or 3 games separated from the Columbia loss, right? Like this was a bad time. We snap off a bunch of wins in a row. After a couple losses to great teams, we get them back on our home court. We beat Syracuse. That was the Arch 3 to send it to overtime. We beat Louisville, get back into the NCAA tournament, haven't looked back since. So like Halil Kanasevich, double middle finger, that created a shockwave through NCAAs that resulted in the greatest era of Villanova basketball history.
Indeed, all on him. But come back to reality.
I have to figure out what Halil's doing right now. Oh, he's playing in the Greek Basket League. Good for him.
There you go.
Maybe
Did he play for Rick Pitino?
That's actually a great question. Keep talking, I'll figure it out.
He also set up my fantastic 4 years of Villanova basketball. I was at both the Syracuse and Louisville games, rushed the court twice in a week. Then, ever since then, it's really, it's like after that, we were set, man. So I would like to extend this gentleman a thank you and wish him the best of luck in the Greek Basket League.
Oh, is that even?
Is that what
Okay,
what it is?
It is. I didn't know.
That?
I thought that was the lower level of it. No, it's still a high level at the very least.
Well,
it's the highest level. Good for him.
He should be careful because I hear chop off fingers.
Pitino coached in that league, right?
Yeah. He played. Khalil did not play for Panathinaikos BC. That's who Pitino coached, and this Khalil's playing for or played for he hasn't played since 2018. So I don't know what the hell he's doing now. But anyways, yeah, looking ahead at this current St. Joe's team, I want to give them a little bit of a shout out. They have 3 guards, and Eric Reynolds, Cameron Brown, and Lynn Greer, who are basically the offense. If we can shut them down, we'll be good. But all 3 of them, good dynamic players. Cameron Brown and Eric Reynolds are shooting above 40% from 3. They're not particularly big, either of those guards. Cam Brown's 6'5". Reynolds is 6'2", Lynn Greer is 6'2", so we have a size advantage pretty much across the board there. Ike Obina is also he's 6'10" center. We've seen him for a bunch of years. He's played against us a couple of times, at least once. Yeah, I think.
Fine, mute.
Brian's giggling.
I'm like, now that's just clicking, which is that.
Oh my god, I didn't mute my mic. I've been absolutely hammering this dude on Twitter. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mute.
So he's also pretty decent. But overall, when I look at the St. Joe's team, it's can we bottle up Reynolds, Brown, and Lynn Greer? If we can, we should be okay. They have a freshman in Rasheer Fleming. He's a big man. He's been looking pretty good from what I can gather, but he's a freshman big man. I'd expect Eric Dixon to be able to handle that no matter what he throws at him. Once again, if we're going to pick a player who's going to hit a bunch of threes versus us, Lynn Greer is shooting 10% from 3 on the year. I'm not sure on what volume that is yet, but that's regardless, that's absurd. Okay, he's 2 of 19. So he's going to hit 3 threes versus us. Just get that ready. But this is much on a much larger scale. This is everything's been a must win, but this is another must win. This is ideally a must dominate and cruise, but get the win, get to 6-5, get into Big East play, fire Billy Lange, and let's get St. Joe's back to it, but not too back to it.
Let's do it this way. In the games of like, we absolutely cannot lose this game, right? Like there's 3 left on the season, right? Like it's the 2 Georgetown games and this game.
Yep.
Right? Like you have to win these 3 games or you've put such a blemish on your resume that it's impossible to overcome. Right. Like, and also giving away, like we need to amass wins. So like we need to do it. This is the time.
Yeah.
So totally agree with everything you said. Would love a comfortable win. Given that it's in Hagen, I wouldn't be shocked if this is a little bit of a teeth-pulling exercise. That being said, St. Joe's plays a style of play that could hurt them because they play very up-tempo. We play very slow. So usually it's easier teams. It's easier for slower teams to control the pace. But if they start to speed us up, like it's not like we're playing slow because we don't have the athletes to play fast, right? Like this is like a team. There's several players on our team who would love to play quickly, right? Like so, like they might find themselves in a little bit of pain by trying to speed us up because it actually might allow our athletes to kind of do what they do, if you will. But slowing them down, I think, is going to be the play here. Just slow them down. Just make it a slow paced game. Make them not be able to get out on runs to do anything that they're trying to do. This is not a good team. They're not a particularly strong roster. They're not particularly tall. Obina and Coleman both are and Jansen are kind of on the taller side, but they don't play particularly tall. Like we got to rebound the basketball, create some extra possessions. I see this as a game that we should win when the final buzzer sounds by more than 10. And I think we will. But it might look like a 5 to 6 point game for a lot of it before the final minute or so with free throws and whatever, stretching that lead out to above 10.
I got a solid win. We'll get this done. Feeling better about this team.
I like it. And then we get into Big East play. This is the last non-con. It would be wild after all of this if we can finish non-con above 500.
Oof. Yes, that's
That'd
true.
be nice. I want to give one shout out to one St. Joe's player. There's a guy, Christian Winborn. If St. Joe's is going to turn it around long term, he's who it's going to be on. He's on 3-star recruit. He was a person that I saw coming out, and I like in the back of my head was like, he could eventually develop to like be Villanova level player. He's a freshman. He's working it out right now, but I hope to see good things from him. I hope he stays at St. Joe's because he's the type of player that I want to see long term, us playing and all that fun stuff. So I want to give him a shout out. Yeah, but we need to win this game by like 10.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. Just one game this week. So, I mean, anything else we want to hit?
I don't got anything else, Rob.
I'm good on my end.
Good luck on your finals, students.
Yeah, good luck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do not miss those days.
We have a guest for next week's podcast. The plan as of right now is for LeBron James to join us on the podcast. No, the LeBron James of Big East announcing John Fanta, also from Cleveland, Ohio. So John will be joining us, is planned to join us on the podcast if he's able to make it. Next week, we'll be recording a week from today, which would be next Monday. And then that podcast will be out for consumption, hopefully Tuesday, so that you guys have a St. John's prep. But more than anything else, that's going to be for previewing the Big East season to come. A very critical Big East regular season for Villanova, maybe the most critical Big East regular season for Villanova for a long time, since we need as much as we can get to go right to find ourselves back on the right side of the NCAA tournament bubble. So with that being said, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at the Full 40. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, SoundCloud, under the same name. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And as always, let's go Nova.